Welcome pilots, my name is Hybrid V and we are back once again to watch your takeoff and landings here in Star Citizen. And if this is the first time you're watching one of my takeoff and landing videos here on the channel, this is where I fly around various spaceports and space stations around the verse in Star Citizen watching players take off or land. And I give them a rating out of 10 based on how cinematic their landings are. Now in Star Citizen, if you land without exploding, that is generally a good thing. So how you do it probably is not really that important, but what we're looking for here is for those players that want to give that extra 10 to 20% more extra special tender care and love to their landing. And also, it's just generally fun to watch overall, right? So what am I looking for in terms of a cinematic landing? I'm looking for controlled descents as they come in, landing gear coming out as soon as they are about to approach the deck and touch down, not having their landing gear too far away, because remember, you can do that in Star Citizen, but for what we're looking for here in terms of what is very cinematic, something like you'd see in, like, I don't know, Helldivers, Star Wars, Star Trek, anything like that, right? Any type of sci-fi media where you'll see the landing gear generally comes out right before the ship touches the ground. We're also making sure we're not seeing any type of accidents, such as bumps or crashes or anything of that like. Seems to be also a ship show going on over here. I want to see if I'm going to try to land. The Cartool is, or I always call this the Cartool, it's not. The Santok Yai is probably one of the worst ships to land in this game because it's VTOL mode, and even when you go into landing gear, is probably one of the worst in the game. It does not handle very well when it's in this configuration. I'm going to try to land as best I can. But anyway, so what are we looking for in a cinematic takeoff? Again, controlled ascent. So as soon as they leave the pad, they will gear up, because it looks really, really cool, right? Again, sci-fi media tends to portray it that way. They're going to use any VTOL if their ship has it, and then they're going to push out, gear up, and then disengage VTOL as they gain more speed. Overall, you just want it to look really cool and really cinematic. And this is, again, the issue with the Santok. And that is what happens is when you're in this configuration, either in VTOL or in landing gear mode, it has no ability to actually retro itself to stop. And you kind of have to fly it like a helicopter, but sometimes even then that doesn't work. And even worse, despite the fact that the Xi'an engines are all pointing down right now, which theoretically should give me really, really good upward boost potential, it actually doesn't always work that way. I don't know why. CAG has a very weird tuning with this ship that is very buggy and weird. I'm going to try to land softly here amongst this pile of ships and vehicles. And one of the biggest issues you'll have is gravity will take over and the engines will stop being responsive at actually applying thrust. So I'm space braking right now to slow down. I'm going to try to gear down here. Slowing down, and I'm still descending. I'm going down fast. You see how fast I went down there? I'm holding the space brake, and I'm also lifting the ship upwards, nose up. That should slow me down, but it doesn't. All right, let's get this show on the road. And of course, before we kick things off, I do want to give a special shout out to newest channel member, Philip Hinson. Thank you so much for the support, and welcome to the crew. All right, we have a large hangar opening up here. We have what appears to be a Corsair trying to squeeze their way into the hangar for some strange reason. You're just trying to push their way. Oh, okay, they're just going to teleport straight in. Looks like we have some desync here, folks, as this Corsair was trying to bully their way past the doors. It could be on their screen. The doors were already open, and on our screens here on our side, we don't see that. Could be any number of issues there. I don't know. You'll probably notice, folks, if you've been playing, especially when the servers are doing bad, sometimes you'll just explode when you leave the hangars. And my suspicion is what you saw there is exactly what happens in that scenario. You come into land or you come to take off, and then your ship explodes because the hangars haven't actually fully opened. On your screen, they're open. They're fully open and you're able to leave, but on the server's end and what other players may see is completely different. The doors may not be fully opened, and in that case, you take damage or you explode. That pilot probably came in for landing and then noticed they just took damage for no reason, despite the fact that the doors were open. So yeah, weird network issues here, so I'm not going to give them a rating on that because that wasn't their fault. So let's go ahead and just move on to the next customer. And we have a 600i coming in for landing with their lights on. 600i is always a very popular ship right next to the Corsair. A lot of people really, really love the 600i. We have a custom livery on this one, not the default white. What do we got here? We have the Fortuna livery on this one. That's the St. Patrick's Day livery. You can see the gears coming out. That is a beautiful landing. You can see how smooth that is. A little bit rough, just a little bit rough on the touchdown there. I'd like that to be smoothened out a little bit more, but I like how controlled they were. Their descent as they came in was really, really nice, no hesitation, and they pulled their gear down after they came through the air shield right before they touched down. Really, really nice. I just want to see them have a little bit more throttle control before they touch down, just so things aren't bouncing around. So that would generally be like a 10 out of 10 in the previous flight model, but because this is master modes and it's a little bit easier to control your ship, you guys well know, especially if you watch previous episodes, that I'm going to be judging things a little bit harshly, so I will take a point away just for having that jittery landing. So that's going to be a 9 out of 10. And we have somebody else coming in with their lights on as well too, making it very easy for me to find you. And we have a Hercules of some description. Damaged Hercules, actually. You can see the tail fin there is actually missing, and you can also see the bay doors are open and the red lights are flashing. So this Hercules, I think it might be an M2. It also could be a C2. I mean, this actually is a custom livery, and I don't see the bottom guns, so this tells me this is a C2. And yeah, so this C2 has some damage to it. It isn't VTOL. I like seeing the VTOL. Very, very nice, especially as you're coming in to slow down. You can use those VTOLs. Once again, folks, ships don't really... It doesn't matter. The bottom thrusters are very strong in Star Citizen, so you don't necessarily need to use VTOLs. But they do actually function in Star Citizen. They give you that upward control in your lift, able to go up faster or even descend a little bit faster and stop faster as you're descending, so long as you're flattened out on your profile. So it's always handy to have them and use them, especially if you're worried about how fast you're coming in. You can flatten out and hit that space brake if you're coming too fast towards the ground, and you can really, really slow down fast. Gear is coming out way early on this one as well too, so I like the VTOL, but I don't like that early gear activation there, so that's going to be a few points off there as well. Let's see how well they do. Hopefully that back bay door there on the C2 is not going to be an issue. Wonder if this player ran into NPCs or had some issues with other players that caused some of that damage. Luckily, it didn't seem to affect their control, as they had a really clean descent there and touched down nicely. No issues, no canting over on the nose, which is a common problem with the Hercules series. So that is very, very nice. So we have early gear usage, which I'll take points away from. They did use VTOL, which is always plus in my book, and they had an excellent controlled descent. No issues, no nose overs or anything like that. So that is a really, really solid 8 out of 10. I know a lot of people like to use the landing gear and its automatic precision mode to slow themselves down. But of course, if you want to improve your landings to be a little bit more cinematic, remember folks, you can use the speed limiter to do that. You don't have to use the precision limiter that automatically is built in if you want to kind of improve on your cinematic landings. Anyway, let's go ahead and move on to the next customer. Okay, so we have a small hangar opening here. We have a Cutlass heading out, waiting for the doors maybe to fully open. There's a little bit of hesitation there. Gear is up and VTOL is active. I like seeing that. They did hesitate slightly getting out of the hangar. Now I'm going to let this slide because I have seen a lot of players explode leaving these hangars at New Babbage in the past. And this player has probably experienced that issue before, so they were hesitating, giving the doors a little bit more time just in case they were desynced, and then taking off to ensure that they don't explode. And that's actually a really good strategy, folks. If you've been dealing with the hangars blowing you up in the past when you leave them, open the doors, let them open, and then let them sit for a few seconds, just to be sure that the actual server is synchronized with the door and your client is synchronized. And that gives you an opportunity to then ensure that you're probably not going to blow up by smashing into a door that's not actually fully open that you can't see. But overall, very good. Gear was up, VTOL usage correctly, and as they rotated to head up to the spaceport, they also turned their VTOLs off, so it looked really beautiful. That would be a solid 10 out of 10. I would normally take points away for the hesitation, but again, I can't fault them for doing the right thing and ensuring that they waited a little bit longer for that hangar to open, just in case there's any desync issues. So phenomenal takeoff from that Cutlass Red. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Okay, so we have another small hangar opening up here, hangar number 1. Let me go ahead and adjust my camera here, folks. Apologies, give me a second here. Let me get in a position and zoom on in. Do we have somebody taking off or landing? I don't see a ship actually inside that hangar. That tells me somebody is potentially coming in for landing in this area. Where from? I'm not entirely certain. Oh, there we go. Here we are. We have appears to be a 300i, I think. Yep, that is a stock 300i. Gear is already down as they're making their way on approach. Looking good so far. Some hesitation, but I think that's network lag I'm seeing there. I'm just seeing some rubber banding, so I'm not going to fault them for that. Looking good. They've got their position marked out. They are now inside the hangar. Let's see how they descend. Very nice controlled descent. How centered are they? Okay, they're slightly askance on the side there. Is that the right word, askance? I know askewed is a word you could use as well there. But this is not an English lesson, folks. This is takeoff and landings, and we have a very nice landing from this 300. Slightly skewed offset, and of course we have an early gear deployment. So I will give them an 8 out of 10. Now, some of you will say, shouldn't I take points away from them being askewed or offset from the center of the pad? And normally I would, and I would be in agreement of that, but currently because of how lackluster the landing tools are for pilots, it makes it hard to judge how centered you can be. And I mean, it's one of the hardest things to do in cinematic takeoff and landings, and that's trying to get that center alignment. It's not impossible. It's just really hard, so I don't rate it as heavily as I do the other elements that I talk about all the time. So let's go ahead with that and move on. All right, what have we got here? Is that another... No, that is a Freelancer. I thought that was a 600i for a second there, but I realized that's actually quite a smaller profile I'm looking at here. And that big butt in the back of that Freelancer tells me that's probably... Let me reset my camera, sorry about that. That tells me that is a Freelancer Max, yes, and it is because it has also that creamsicle livery that comes with the Freelancer Max, that orange and white look. And of course, you're going to see the signature quad engines in the back of the Freelancer Max. Probably, in my opinion, one of the more popular Freelancer variants because of its cargo capacity. So it is a very, very excellent, kind of like a medium hauler, right? It's really, really good. It holds more than the Raft. Of course, its benefit over the Raft is, you know, it holds more cargo, but the Raft has the benefit of having those cranes, which unfortunately are just not functional quite yet. When those cranes come in, that's actually going to be a huge benefit. So we have an early gear activation from this Freelancer, although they are maintaining an excellent steady course. They are lined up, descending, everything's controlled, and nice touchdown. Excellent landing here. Of course, we do have that early gear activation. Looks like they're trying to reset their position here. Probably trying to reset themselves in the center. Either way, looks really, really good. Excellent control. Just that early gear is a big no-no for me. So, of course, some people like to use it to slow themselves down. However, for what we're looking for here, folks, we want to make sure that people are trying to actually do cinematic landings, or at least we're looking for it. I'm not trying to enforce anything on anybody. I just want to see what, you know, if people are able to pull it off, right? Another small hangar here opening up. By the way, that Freelancer, I'm going to give him an 8 out of 10 because everything was great. It's just that gear. And we have what appears to be a Prospector taking off. You can see the lag as the door opens. The ship just kind of tilts into some weird nonsense there. Gear is still down. No VTOL being used here. Prospector, of course, being the entry-level mining ship. Like I always say, I can't wait to see if CIG is going to do another additional entry-level mining ship because MISC kind of has that locked down. They just have the one ship. I would love to see another entry-level miner of some description, like Argo making an entry-level miner, or maybe a different manufacturer. Maybe, like, I don't know, Aegis has the Reclaimer, right? Even though they're combat-oriented, they've gone into the civilian market before as part of their lore in an attempt to survive. It'd be really cool to see them do more civilian-oriented ships. Maybe Anvil, you can have a hardened miner, right? Anyway, that Prospector had they had their gear down the entire time and they were not using VTOL. A little bit slow on the exit of the hangar, but that's perfectly fine. I think that works. Again, New Babbage tends to be a murderer of ships, so people taking their time, I'm not going to fault them greatly for that. So we have the two sections missing there, so I will say that is going to be a 7 out of 10. Decent, but could be better. Also, every time I come to New Babbage, why is there always a graveyard of ships out in front? Folks, let me know in the comments below. Are you one of the people that leaves your ships out here? I'm wondering if it's like people crash maybe as they come in, like their clients crash, or they DC and the ships just fall out of the sky, I guess. I don't know. It's always very strange. Every time I come to New Babbage, there's always just tons of ships sitting on the front. I don't think it has to do with people actually putting vehicles into their ships. It could be, but the garages are further behind me. So, oh, here we have the small hangar openings. Yeah, so there's always like a graveyard of ships just sitting there for no reason. I don't know what's going on with that. And we have what appears to be, I think that boxy silhouette tells me that's a cutter. Apologies, folks. New Babbage always has a very bad atmospheric, so it can be very hard to see. So I'm going to try to get closer to the best of my ability so you can see this. I do apologize. Hopefully YouTube is not destroying the compression here with these weird atmospherics that we get from the blizzards and whatnot that pass through here on Microtech. We have the second small hangar opening up. I don't see anything waiting here, so somebody's coming to land on the right Somebody's taking off from the left. I will try to stay in this wide FOV here to see if I can capture both here as they take off and land. And so far it looks like that cutter is still holding position in there. So not much to write home about there. Let's see. Can we find who's coming in to Bay 6 over here? Anybody around looking? I don't see anybody coming in. I'll give it a few seconds here. Oh, I see some lights. What do we got here? We have what appears to be another Freelancer MAX coming in. I can tell because of how bulky that ship is. It's a very, very bulky ship. Ooh, what do we got here? The cutter is still on the deck, so they're still waiting. And here's the Freelancer. Let's see how they do. Gear out early. And this one does have a custom livery on this one. This is a Freelancer MAX with, I think it has that black paint that you can get for the Freelancer series. You can see that quad engine working there. A little bit of hesitation. I don't want to see that hesitation. They were doing good until they started hesitating there, and they have their gear down early. So they're trying to line themselves up. Let's go ahead and push in a little bit closer and see how they do. All right, inside the air shield and fully in the hangar now. Let's see. They're still hovering in the air. And are they just going to set down immediately, or are they going to try to line themselves up? Let's see how they do. Trying to, folks, again, apologies for the atmospherics here. So that's why I'm trying to push in a little bit harder to get closer here. I don't want to also get impounded, but I'm going to try to give you guys a good angle of this. And down they go. A little bit hard on the landing there, but very nice overall. Not fully centered, but, you know, we'll take it. We'll take it. Let's go see how our cutter buddy is doing over here. Let's go back to Bay 4. Are we ready to go here? And it does not look like it. It looks like they're still sitting on the pad. Could be maybe a new player or something like that trying to get their space legs. Maybe they're trying to figure out their control schemes. Oh, no, here we go. They're already taking off. And their gear is down. No VTOL usage. And let's see what they do here. They're kind of weebly wobbling everywhere. Maybe they're trying to figure out who's around them. Let's see what they do. Nope, they're trying. Okay, this is definitely a new player. I can tell because they're trying to fight the mouse controls, the virtual joystick. All right, so for that Freelancer coming in, I'm going to give them a 6 out of 10. Early gear activation, massive amounts of hesitation. They're also a little bit askew on the pad, but not as big of a deal. But I will say that it definitely could be a lot better. It's a really, really slow approach, 6 out of 10. And for this cutter, still having their gear down the entire time and a lot of hesitation, and now they're just floating above. Again, I think this is probably going to be a newer player. This is definitely the telltale signs of a newer player to me. So this is probably also going to be a 6. I could rate this as low as a 5, but this is definitely going to be a 6 for this cutter for sure, as they're fighting the virtual joystick. Remember, folks, don't overdo the virtual joystick with your mouse, right? Small movements. If you overcook it, right, there's a lot of momentum you have to overcome. So you have to make sure you don't overcook the actual mouse controls. Just small movements is all you need. The moment you start overdoing the mouse movements, you're going to start to have this hysteresis, and you're going to start to bobble up and down, back and forth, right? You just got to slow down those mouse movements. All right, with that being said, I'll let that cutter try to figure their issue out there. Good day to you, sir. Let's go ahead and let's see who else we get here next. Okay, so I decided to go to Port Tressler to, well, watch this Freelancer MAX coming in for landing. It could be the one from the ground that we saw earlier, not entirely certain. Yeah, sitting at New Babbage for too long hurts my eyeballs with the amount of blizzards that pass through the area. It gets annoying, gives me a headache after a while, so sometimes I need to get a break, so I like to come out to Port Tressler. So let's see who we get out here in 0G as they come in to land. In this case, we have this Freelancer MAX on approach. Looks like they're lining themselves up for the hangar. They are upside down. They're going to have to roll. And we do see early gear usage here. There they go, lining themselves up now. Now they're going to have to roll as they come into position, as they're quickly going to realize they're upside down. There they go. They are now in the correct position to head into the hangar. Gear is still down at this point. And let's see how they do as they come in. A little bit of hesitation as they're slowing their roll, trying to be very ginger about how they move. And let's see, are they going to actually make their way into the hangar nice and easy here? And looks like it so far. Still a lot of oh, careful there. A little bit of fast movement there. They probably were not happy with how slow their approach was, so they kind of opened maybe their limiter a little bit there, give it a little bit of gas. But overall, though, we're looking good here. Let's see how they do on the descent. Now, I have been playing the Evocati builds with the new changes to cargo. Very nice landing there. And one thing I noticed, and I'm not entirely certain if this is actually a thing on live, but it feels like cargo actually adds weight to the ship now. At least when I tried it with my raft in Evocati, I put some cargo on my raft, and the raft moved extremely slow as a result. And it's interesting, I'm wondering if that is actually the result of cargo, because it felt fine as I was leaving atmosphere. But the moment I had laden it with cargo from my cargo deck area, you know, the little warehouse that we have now that's going to be coming in 324, the moment I took off and tried to come back to Area 18 with my cargo, it felt like a bus. Like this thing felt like so slow. So it made a reclaimer feel like a Gladius in comparison. That's how slow the raft felt with all that cargo. It didn't feel like that when I was initially taking off. So I'm wondering if cargo is imparting mass. Now, I'm not a cargo hauler, folks, so I don't know if cargo is already imparting mass now. Let me know in the comments, folks, if that's the case now currently. Are you a hauler? Do you notice cargo actually imparting any mass on your ships currently? Do you notice your ship feels different compared to when it has or doesn't have cargo? Let me know. I'm going to dig into that a little bit more as these builds come out for us in the PTU. And I'm going to see if that's actually more common or not, if that's an actual change. But I'd like to know from some of you that like to do a lot of hauling if that's the actual case. All right, so let's refocus back to this Mustang. I think it's a Delta potentially coming in for landing here. Gear out early, nice and controlled. Looks like they're trying to find their position to land. Nice descent. Let's see, a little bit offset to the left, but still very nice. I just would like to see that gear out a little bit later rather than that early they did there. It looks like they're trying to reposition themselves for takeoff later there. So I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10. I don't mind the repositioning. That's fine. Sometimes people prefer to nose out on side approach hangars, which is my preference as well too. But let's see. We have a 350R. So this is the Racing 300 and looks like it spawned outside. Yeah, a lot of hangars are still dealing with this bug in this patch, folks, where your ships spawn outside. I'm assuming that's going to be fixed in 324 since everybody has personal hangars now, so we'll see. Everybody has like instance hangars now, so I think this is no longer going to be an issue. Probably why CIG really hasn't spent too much time fixing it, despite the fact that it is really annoying when it happens to you. Let's move on. Okay, I see another small hangar opening up here. Let's see what we've got on the deck. I believe that is a Cutlass, seeing that little canard on the right side there. That does indeed tell me we have a Cutlass getting ready to take off here. Gear is still down, no VTOL being used currently as they make their way out. And away they go, looking good. Gear is still down at this point. Now, it could be going up at any moment here because it is a little bit weird. There it goes. You can see the gear come up there slightly. Sometimes the gear is like instantaneous for the Cutlass currently. It will, whether you pull it down or pull it up, sometimes the gear animation just doesn't play whatsoever, both to the client and other players. So that is a weird bug with the Cutlass currently. Actually, a lot of the Drake ships have that issue right now, and as far as I can tell, also that issue is still occurring even in the Evocati builds. For some reason, the Drake ships don't play their animations for their gears properly. Don't know why, just the issue. So we still had no gear, no VTOL, so I'm going to give them a 7 out of 10. Yet another small hangar opening up here. Let's see what we have waiting in the wings. Whatever it is already lifting up. And we have a Corsair getting ready for takeoff. Gear is already up. I like seeing that. I don't see the back VTOL engines being engaged, so we're missing that element. Let's see the wings unfold here. This is always the fun part of watching a Corsair. Look at that. Ah, beautiful. This is why the Corsair is a crowd pleaser for many. That really cool asymmetry design. So very, very nice. The main element we were missing here was utilization of VTOL, and that was pretty much it. Everything else was good. I'll give them a 9 out of 10. Solid control as they were taking off. Gear was up as soon as they lifted up, and then they headed out and they changed their configuration as they got out of the hangar, so I love seeing that. I just would like to see them use VTOLs just because it looks cool. Again, it's not necessary, not 100% for Star Citizen. It works perfectly fine if you don't use it. As you saw there, that pilot had no issues. But in terms of overall looks, it is really, really nice, and generally, it does give you a little bit of boost as you're lifting up too. And you may not need it for leaving a hangar, but of course, again, folks, like I said, we're looking for it here on the show. So we have another large hangar opening up here, and this appears to be a Hercules, specifically an A2, getting ready to leave here. Let's see how well this pilot does. I don't see VTOLs being used quite yet. They're still waiting on the wing. Let's see if they... Oh, hey, look at there. VTOL's being used. It's almost like they're listening to me. All right, up in the air. Are they going to pull? Gears coming up. Oh, these... they're psychic. They're listening to me, folks. Here we go. As they leave the hangar, beautiful. That is awesome. See how awesome that looks? The ship looks beautiful. Now, let's see. Are they going to disengage their VTOLs? Or are they going to forget about it? Let's see. Come on, turn off the VTOLs. Don't go too far with it. There we go. There we go. Now, I'd prefer to see the VTOLs being lifted, or being retracted, I should say, the moment they leave the hangar, because they're going into 0G. You don't really need the VTOLs in 0G, right? Especially if you're going to kind of play it in a more, as if it was like a realistic scenario, right? If you're in atmosphere, you can have the VTOLs on for longer. That looks better. But when you're in 0G, it's not as necessary, and off they go into quantum. So overall, that was really, really good. I think the late VTOL is really the only thing I didn't like there. So I will subtract 1 point. That would normally be a 10 out of 10, but that late VTOL retraction is the only thing I'll take a point from them, so that will be a 9 out of 10. Well done to the A2 pilot. Let's go ahead and move on. Okay, another small hangar. Small hangar is very popular today. We have an Aurora taking off, despite the fact that, oh, look at that gear coming up as soon as they take off. That is really nice takeoff from this Aurora pilot, Aurora MR to be more specific. I think at one point the Aurora was the most popular ship ever sold, probably because it was the most popular game package. It's the most popular entry-level game package. I'm wondering if it still is, because the last time I saw that statistic was many years ago. So I'm curious if the Aurora MR is still a very popular ship that many players own. Probably it is. But yeah, very nice takeoff from that pilot. They lifted up, geared up, and then pushed out immediately. So that is a very, very nice. Solid 10 out of 10. I really can't say much more than that, right? Someday I'm hoping the Aurora, when it gets updated, maybe it'll have its fans, much like its bigger cousin, the RSI Constellation, right? Because the Constellation has those big fans that they use for for VTOL. So yeah, we'll see. I do know that the Aurora has slats, what look like should be where fans go, but of course, as it stands right now, the Aurora is a very old ship, despite it getting redesigned. I think it was like, what, 2016, 2017, I think it was, or something like that. It got redesigned, and it's going to have to go through an additional gold standard process at some point, and I'm hoping when that happens, it will be given fans as well. I don't think it really needs it, but we'll see how CIG decides to tune it in the future to see if it needs it, but excellent job to that Aurora pilot. All right, folks, let's go ahead and move on. Let's see what else we get next. All right, small hangar is opening up once more. Let's see, do we have somebody coming in or somebody leaving? I'm gonna try to get a little bit closer here, and I see what appears to be a cutter already off the deck, looking good. Gear is already up, but no VTOL being used. I can also see the back door is open on the cutter. It's a common thing that people tend to do a lot. They end up forgetting about the doors. Folks, remember, it's very easy for somebody to sneak on their ship. At least right now, currently, in 324, because of the private hangars, it's going to be less common for somebody to just sneak aboard your ship because, of course, the hangars are private. People are not allowed to enter it, and if they do, they have less than 10 seconds to do anything before they're kicked out. At least that's how it is currently in the Evocati. That might change. And away they go with the back ramp open. Nice takeoff. I like how the gear was up. However, like I said, VTOL was not active, so I will have to take points for it. Don't really care about the ramp. The ramp is kind of inconsequential. It does look goofy, but it's not really a thing I care about too much. I more like the sequence looking more cinematic than anything else. And because we do have that gear missing, and we do have some hesitation, which could be any number of reasons why there's hesitation, I will take points away. But again, like I said, because of the fact that the hesitation is kind of warranted because of the lag the servers have, I'm not going to be as harsh like I've mentioned in the past. So that player could potentially have been waiting for the doors to open fully and making sure that it's fully synced up. Or maybe they were altering controls, don't know. Normally I would take more points than normal away for something like that, but because of the server issues, I'm going to be more lenient. So I'll say that's just a solid 9 out of 10. Very good. I think overall so far, everybody's been doing some awesome showings this go-around for takeoff and landings. I've been enjoying it so far, and I think people have really put in the work trying to practice and get better at their takeoff and landings. When I first started this series, I thought that we were going to run into a lot of problems of people actually crashing and all kinds of mishaps and whatnot, and just, straight just weirdness and stuff like that, which of course, over the period of doing this for 3 seasons now, yeah, we've seen our share of weirdness and crazy stuff, but not really too many crashes or anything super crazy like that, right? I just don't get lucky enough, at least, to see that. It always seems like I'll pop into a spaceport and I'll hear people crashing, but I never really get to actually see it. Maybe someday we'll see that, but yeah. And as I've been doing this more and more, it's always been cool seeing people actually try to do proper cinematic takeoff and landings. It's been really fun. I'm going to try to land here, but of course, once I go into landing gear mode, yep, it drops like a rock. Like so. This is why I hate the Santakia when it comes to takeoff and landings. For some strange reason, in VTOL mode and landing gear mode, it just falls down. Despite the fact that the main engines are now pointed downwards, it just falls like a rock, even if you're in coupled mode for some reason. I think this is going to be a good place to cut things here. I'll be right back, though. I'm going to switch ships real quick. Alright folks, that's it for me today, watching your takeoff and landings in Star Citizen. It's good to be back. I had to take a few weeks off because I decided to kick my old editing software. I was using Adobe Premiere. I have gotten rid of all my Adobe products and I've now switched to DaVinci Resolve. And also I had some recording issues, just the recordings got corrupted at one point, which was really annoying to deal with, so I had to redo a lot of stuff. And of course, now moving to a new editor. Took me a little bit to get this going once more again, but luckily we are back up and running and ready to take full swings at it once more. So folks, if you did indeed enjoy the videos, please leave a like, as it really does help out the channel. And of course, if you want to see more videos like this and much more down the line, be sure to subscribe as well. And if you want to go above and beyond and support the work that I do here watching takeoff and landings, or maybe something else you like on the channel like my various guides, you can also become a channel member and help support the work that I do, like these fine folks right here, whose continued support helps me to put these videos together for the Star Citizen community. But until next time, fly safe, because you never know who might be watching. And I'll see you all in the black.